Hey everyone, welcome to the top 10 list. Welcome to my top 10 worst slasher movies. Yes, in my last video I did my top 10 best slasher films. Now it's time for the list that you all love and the list that most people look forward to, the worst list. Yes, people like to see me thrash films more than praise films, which is pretty sick and twisted of you, but still, kind of like it. Anyways, a lot of bad horror movies out there, and most of them are slasher films, really bad slasher films. So yeah, I digress. So yeah, let's get to it. Here's my top 10 worst slasher movies. And for a top 10 list, you gotta have your dishonorable mentions. My dishonorable mentions are Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason X, Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 and 2, Freddy's Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, Texas Chainsaw 3D, House of a Thousand Corpses, and the Rob Zombie Halloween films. All shitty-ass slasher films. Just give me the top 10 list. But what didn't make my top 10 was my number 10. My number 10 is Seed of Chucky. Seed of Chucky is a really god-awful, stupid Chucky movie. Even for Chucky standards, it's a really dumb movie. Cult of Chucky is pretty bad, and Child's Play 3 is pretty bad, but this is the worst of the worst. Yes, it's Tiffany and Chucky, and they have a little boy. I don't even know how they're dolls. I don't know how the fuck they have a kid, and he's annoying. Like, Tiffany and Chucky are enjoyable characters. The son is annoying as fuck, and I'm glad they took him out and stuff. And the characters in this movie, yes, they are the most stock horror movie characters ever. They're just douchebag teenage characters, and it has Redman in the film, so that just goes to show the quality of acting in Seed of Chucky. Even horror movie fans who are obsessed with Chucky, they even called Seed of Chucky an abomination to the franchise. And this is not even a great franchise to begin with, but Seed of Chucky is an ungodly awful film, and just, yeah, one of the worst slasher films you'll ever watch. Coming in number 9 is Urban Legends: The Final Cut. Yes, the first Urban Legends was a generic horror film, and they made a sequel that was an even more generic horror film. And the movie tries to be like a Scream, tries to, a satire of horror films, but also being a horror film. And it fails at both being a horror film and a satire of a horror film. It's horribly directed, horribly constructed. It has completely forgettable characters, really very forgettable kills and stuff, and it tries to make references to film and movies and classic horror films, and they're just pop culture references to be pop culture references. They're irrelevant and unfunny. They have really shitty actors in this film, and it just doesn't work as a whole, and it's a very forgettable and generic film, and just couldn't stand it. Coming in number 8 is The Hills Have Eyes 2. Yes, the original Hills Have Eyes, the 80s version directed by Wes Craven, was a pretty good, fun, B-movie horror film. It was fine for what it was for its time. They remade it in the early 2000s, and it's actually not a bad film. It's not a great film, but it's not bad. I like the story of Aaron Stanford, and his family gets murdered by these fucking mutant people, and he goes to hunt them down to get his baby back, and he just massacres them all. That's kind of a cool story. It's ridiculous, it's silly, but it has cool practical effects, and it has a lot of silly, over-the-top gore. Hills Have Eyes 2 is just gore. There is no story, there's no badass characters, there's not even good characters, it's just gore. It's gore upon gore upon gore. It is torture porn at its worst. I hate torture porn. Torture porn is one of my least favorite things about horror films. That's why I don't like any of Eli Roth's films, because it's just torture porn. It's just violent for the sake of being violent. There's no reasoning or logic behind the violence. It's just violence upon violence. And that's why I hate The Hills Have Eyes 2. There's no story, there's no characters. It's just gore with gore and more gore. It's an hour and 25 minutes of violent gore and shitty acting, bad characters, horribly directed story, not well constructed or structuralized. It is just a awful, shitty horror film. And yeah, I know The Hills Have Eyes aren't really great films to begin with, but you could have had something a little more fun than this. Coming in number 7 is See No Evil. Yes, See No Evil stars Kane, the WWE wrestler. Yes, when you have him as the main character, you definitely have a problem. This is just a ridiculous film. I don't even know if it even went to theaters. I remember renting this movie with a buddy of mine, and it was just awful. Basically, it's all these teenagers, they go into this abandoned house, or this big muscle dude kills you and rips your eyes out. That's literally the story of this film. He has big fingernails, and he rips your eyes out with his fingernails. That's it. You kind of get to the backstory of him. His mother was a religious nut, and she put him in cages and stuff, and that's all you get. I'm like, okay, sort of ripping off Psycho and every other horror film ever existed, and yeah, he spares one girl because she has a cross tattooed on her back, so I guess that means she's religious. I don't know. Anyone can put crosses on. So if you just have a cross, he's not going to kill you? It makes no sense. And yeah, it's generic. It's got the stereotypical horror characters. They're just there to die. It's just blood and guts and gore and Kane mumbling through the whole film and just killing people. It's a dumb, stupid movie and don't know why it existed. I think there's even a sequel to it. Why? Who fucking knows? Coming in number 6 is the remake of Black Christmas. This is a really bad film. This is one of the worst Christmas movies ever. And Black Christmas, the original, is a great film, and it laid its landmark to slasher films and stalker films. And it inspired Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Scream, and all the great horror films. Black Christmas remake, it shits on everything that the original did. It has shitty characters. It has a lot of actresses that were like famous at the time, like Michelle Trachtenberg and Katie Cassidy and stuff, and Lacey Chabert. You remember those names? Of course you don't. Terrible characters. It's just gore, and it's just disgusting. Again, the torture porn gore. I can't stand just movies that are violent. That's it. They're just violent to be violent. There's no reasoning or logic behind it. It's just violent. That's exactly what this is. Like Hills Have Eyes and Eli Roth films. Just can't stand it. And these characters are probably the dumbest characters and the most stereotypical characters. If you're a feminist, definitely don't watch this movie because these are the most lamest female characters you'll ever see in a horror film. There is no strong, independent female character in this one. There's no Ellen Ripley. There's no Erin from Your Next. There's no Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street. They're these just stupid, idiotic female characters that don't know how to just leave a house. And yeah, it's a stupid movie and a horrible remake. Coming in number 5 is Friday the 13th, 2009. Yes, really shitty movie. This is half torture porn, half actual porn. It's just blood and sex throughout the whole movie. Yeah, I might as well just go to Pornhub and watch some snuff films. That's basically what this fucking movie is. Friday the 13th is not a good franchise. The first one is decent. The fourth one, I think, is pretty good. That's the final chapter. Yeah, that's not bad. The 2009 remake is really bad. At least Jason X, as stupid as that movie is, has one good kill. When Jason freezes the girl's face and breaks her face off, so dumb, but at least it's memorable. This 2009 movie, it kind of begins with the opening of Jason's mother killing these people. It's in this weird montage that's horribly edited, and she's just some crazy old lady. And if you've never seen a Friday the 13th movie, you completely don't understand. You don't even understand why she's doing all this, because you have to watch Friday the 13th to understand. That's Mrs. Voorhees. But yeah, then the movie begins. The first act, there's a group of teenagers. They all get killed. They're not the main characters, because then the next scene, there's new teenagers that get killed and stuff. It's just people arriving at Camp Crystal Lake and Jason killing them all. It's got bad jokes, horrible one-dimensional characters, really just over-the-top violence, and just a lot of sex scenes. That's the only reason why people would ever watch this movie. To watch blood and sex. And just, there's no definitive story, there's no plot. It's just, again, Jason killing and people screwing, and it's not my thing. Coming to number 4 is I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Yes, I still know what you did last summer. Yeah, I know what you did last summer. It's not a great film. It's not at all, but at least I guess it's fine for what it is. It's just a very silly, ridiculous 90s slasher horror film. It's not good. It's not like awful or anything. The sequel is really bad. It's really terrible. It doesn't make sense because how the first one ended. I guess it was a dream. I don't know. It brings in new characters, has Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., who can't act with the shit. Because the only people that were somewhat talented in the first one died, Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar. This one brings in Brandy and Mekhi Phifer and Jack Black and dreadlocks. I shit you not. And yeah, the killer's back. He has a hook for a hand, and he has a son in this movie, and just, it's a ridiculous film. Makes no sense. There's bajillion plot holes in this film, and she even shoots him 50 times in the film, but he still has a jump scare at the end and gets them. How? I don't know. How does he even know where they live? I don't know, but bad acting, bad characters, just really bad film. Coming in number 3 is Halloween Resurrection. Yes, Halloween Resurrection is easily the most painful Halloween film. This is bad. Like, the Rob Zombie ones are bad, but this one is a special kind of awful. It has Busta Rhymes doing kung fu, beating up Michael Myers. Just trick or treat, motherfucker. It is so stupid, and yeah, it's these people, this TV show crew, they're they're filming in Michael Myers' house for a TV show, and then Michael Myers comes and starts killing them, and people don't believe that he's killing them because they believe it's all an act and stuff, and oh, it's so dumb. This movie is so stupid. It has Busta Rhymes, has Tyra Banks, Sean Patrick Thomas, the kid from American Pie, the cast of this movie is amazing. Just ridiculous kills, ridiculous scenes, and it's just ridiculous. Coming in number 2 is a Canadian horror film. Good job, Canada. And that's the movie ATM. ATM is one of the worst horror films I have ever watched. The sheer stupidity of this film is baffling. Basically, it's about these 3 people in this ATM booth, and then there's a guy outside with a hood. He has an axe, and he wants to kill them. That's the story of this movie. It makes no sense. Why doesn't these 3 characters just run in 3 different directions? He's one man. He doesn't have a gun. They could just easily escape, but they don't. They just stand there and he kills them off one by one. It's so dumb and so fucking just ridiculous. Just ugh. And then he like floods the booth. How? I don't know. It would. How does he flood a booth? Where do you get the freaking hose from? Just so dumb. It's a ridiculous film. It's laughably bad. That's for darn sure. But it's one of the worst horror films I have ever watched, and easily one of the worst slasher films I have ever witnessed. Why, Canada? Why? I live in this country, and we make these bad horror films. We have some good ones, though. And my number 1 least favorite slasher film is... yes, this is another one. It was on my top 10 worst horror films, and that's House of Wax. House of Wax is a really bad film. It's a remake of a great classic with Vincent Price. This movie completely missed what House of Wax was even about. This one is about 2 brothers, and they kill people and turn them into wax. That's literally it. And again, has actors from the time of the 2000s. Like, who was famous in the early 2000s? Let's get Chad Michael Murray. We'll get Alicia Cuthbert and Paris Hilton. Good cast. Jared Padalecki as well. He was also on Friday the 13th. It's got over-the-top violence, and just you learn nothing about these characters. You care nothing about these characters. It's just violence upon violence. It's just gore fest. And yeah, you don't give a shit what's happening. Even the kills aren't very entertaining or interesting. This movie's just kind of dull, poorly shot, and just it's not fun to watch. Unless you want to watch Paris Hilton die in the film. That was kind of entertaining. Other than that, this movie is so boring and generic, and the fact that it's a remake of an amazing classic horror film like the original House of Wax with Vincent Price, this movie is just a disgrace and a middle finger to that film. And I hate this movie more than a lot of films. It's one of my least favorite horror films, and it's easily my least favorite slasher film. It's awful. So yeah, that was my top 10 worst slasher films in my opinion. So in the comment section below, please tell me, did you agree with this top 10 list? If not, give me your guys' top 10 least favorite slasher films in your guys' opinion. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please like, subscribe to this channel, and join the dark side.